Unit 3 progress check free response question, part B, the car class. This is meant to be a review for our upcoming test free response question. So hopefully this walkthrough will help you understand everything and kind of verify that you know what you're doing. So you can see here we've got the write-up. We've got this car class, which we'll write. So I'm just going to kind of progress through and fill in as I see information pop up. So instantly I see, right, car class, okay, which I will write. So I'm doing this in my sandbox in CodeHS. If you want to code in there, you can, and then copy it over to the little like text box that's off to the side here in the AP Classroom, or you can just do it directly in the AP Classroom. But anyway, I see car class. So how do I start a class? Well, all classes are going to be public, so I'm going to write public class car. And I'm doing it in the sandbox because it's just kind of nicer. It kind of does some auto syntax things for me, just makes things easier. So feel free to do that as well, and then copy it over like I said. Okay, so car objects are created by calls to a constructor with two double parameters. Okay, so I see this statement here. All right, so I've got a constructor. I don't know what my instance variables are yet, but I'm going to go ahead and write my constructor. Public car, two double parameters. Double, the first parameter represents the number of gallons, so maybe I'll make that gallons. And the second parameter represents the average number of miles, so miles per gallon looks like. Miles can travel per gallon of fuel, so I'll do miles per gallon. All right, and so already there's an implication here. Because there are two parameters, the purpose of a constructor is to set instance variables. And so that kind of tells me, well, there's probably going to be two instance variables to match up with those parameters, right? So I'm going to go ahead and create those now. Now all of my instance variables are private, so private double. And just to practice some of the things that we've done this chapter, I'm going to name my instance variable gallons the same thing that I've named my parameter here. And I'll do the same thing with my miles per gallon. Now I might not do that in real life, but to practice some of the things from the end of this unit, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I know that the purpose, again, of a constructor is to set the instance variables equal to the parameters being passed in, right? So in order to do this correctly, I have a mistake, right? I'm going to intentionally make a mistake here that might be kind of common. And I realize, oh, okay, I've got two variables named the same thing, and so I have a scope issue. And so in order to make sure this is correct, I'm going to use the this keyword on both of those to make sure I'm referring to my instance variables. Okay, now my constructor looks good. And I'm going to continue with the next paragraph. It says the car class contains a make trip method. Okay, so I'm going to write this method, public. I don't know what the return type is here, so I'm going to leave it. Can make trip. Make sure when you are working on AP free responses that you're following exactly what is specified, right? So this can make trip, I want to spell it exactly as it's spelled here with the right capital letters and all of that. You don't want to make any mistakes just due to not naming things the way that AP specified, because they are pretty particular about that kind of thing. And it says this method determines whether there's enough fuel in the car to make a trip. It has a double parameter. Okay, so again, parameter, that tells me that in between the parentheses here, there's going to be a double that represents the distance in miles. So I'm just going to call it distance. Of the potential trip. If there's enough fuel, the method updates the current amount of fuel. Okay, do I have a way to do that? Amount of fuel. Okay, that's what I've called gallons. Okay, just verifying that my instance variables match up with the situation. And returns true. Okay, well there's a clue. Returns true. Well, that's telling me the return type has to be Boolean. So I'm going to see here, okay, this is a Boolean can make trip, and we're going to return true or false. If there's not enough fuel, the amount of fuel is unchanged and the method returns false. All right, I think we have enough information right here to write this method. How do we know if there's enough fuel or not? Well, we've got this miles per gallon and we've got this distance, right? And I just sort of want you to think about how we can calculate how much fuel there would be required to go a certain distance given a certain miles per gallon. I want you to realize, so the units are miles over gallons here. Obviously the units here are gallons, and the units here are distance. So how do I calculate the fuel required for a given distance? Well, if I have a distance and I have miles per gallon, you can sort of think about how we're going to get those units to work out. We're going to actually divide the distance by the miles per gallon. So I might make a little helper variable here called double fuel required. I can't spell fuel today. And we're going to say, okay, well, that's the distance divided by the miles per gallon. Okay. I don't have any scope issues here because the only miles per gallon in this scope is my instance variable, and distance, of course, is distance. I want to check and make sure that my division's okay, right? I want a double because my gallons are doubles. Does this distance over miles per gallon produce a double result? Yes, because distance itself is a double and so is miles per gallon. Okay, so I'm going to divide a double by a double and I get a double. That all looks good. Just checking my types. And then I'm just going to look and follow the if, right? So this line here is probably the most of the work. If what? If there's enough fuel. Okay, so if fuel is greater than or equal to, I guess, the fuel required, then what am I going to do? I'm going to update the amount of fuel in the car. Okay, so I'm going to use up, it sounds like, I'm going to use up the fuel for this trip. So I'm going to subtract from the fuel, so I'll do a minus equals here, fuel required, and do what? And return true. So I'll return true as well. Otherwise, I don't change the amount of fuel and I simply return false. Okay, this seems reasonable. I have an if and an else. It's going to return in all cases because I've included my return in my else. I could have simply omitted the else and returned false just after this without the else. That would have worked as well. Either one of those is fine. But I am returning in all cases, so this should not give me any kind of errors about a missing return. Just double check, seems like this is okay. Okay, now I can come down to the table and see if I'm doing the right things, right? So this table kind of gives you a check to see, hey, if you follow your code, is it going to produce what you want? So let's look. I'm going to try to slide this over. What do they do first? Well, they create a Boolean possible. So this code, just so you are aware, this code would be in like a main somewhere other than the class car, right? So it says the code execution here appears in a class other than car, right? So in the main method in another class. So we create a local variable called possible. Looks like we're creating a new car with 10 gallons of fuel, 30 miles per gallon. I want to make sure that I've ordered my parameters correctly, right? So looks like here 10 and 30, 10 is gallons, 30 is miles per gallon. So make sure in your constructor, sorry, I keep moving this back and forth. Make sure in your constructor that the order of your parameters matches the order they're specifying. Gallons of fuel, miles per gallon, good. Mine looks like it's in the correct order. I might have had to switch those if I had that in the wrong order. Okay, so car 1, and it says possible, car 1 can make trip 120.0 miles. And this should be returning true. At 30 miles per gallon, a 120 mile trip requires 4 gallons. Well, let's just double check my code here. What am I doing? I'm saying distance over miles per gallon, 120, my distance, divided by my miles per gallon, which was 30, is 4. Okay, looks like I'm doing the right calculation. Requires 4 gallons. It's less than or equal, right? Okay, so I'm seeing less than or equal to the fuel that I have. Now they did it a little bit backwards than me. They said, is the fuel required less than or equal to the fuel, where I said the fuel greater than or equal to the fuel required, but that's equivalent, so that looks good. The fuel remaining will be 6 gallons, so fuel minus equals 4. Good, looks like I'm doing that. And then here, we continue, right? Car 1 can make trip 90 at 30 miles per gallon. A 90-mile trip will require 3 gallons. I still have 6, so it's going to run this again, keep decreasing the fuel. There'll be 3 gallons left. Okay, and then lastly, or not lastly, but lastly for car 1, we try a 225-mile trip, but that's going to simply return false because I only have 3 gallons left, and this trip is going to require 7.5 gallons based on this calculation. So it should be that fuel is not greater, so 3 is not greater than or equal to 7.5. So we'll come down and return false. This looks good. And then we do the same kind of thing with another object, car 2, and attempt to make car 2 go 300 miles on 12 gallons at 15 miles per gallon, and that's not enough, right? So notice here also, we have a trip for car 2 that's not possible because we don't have enough fuel, followed by a call to can make trip with a shorter distance that returns true because we didn't actually use any fuel for this impossible trip. So this comes back true. But there you go. That should basically be the whole thing. Let me just kind of show that again. Pretty simple, but just to highlight what we're practicing, being able to read verbally a description of the situation and write that code that matches, and then being careful about paying attention to things like scope, parameters, instance variables, all that good stuff that we looked at in chapter 3. Watch your return types. Again, watch your naming of your variables, and if you have a conflict in the naming, make sure you understand about the this variable, or the this keyword. And that should be it. I will see you next class.